Thank you guys for being here today to learn about accessibility. Accessibility is a measure of how a user can interact with products or services. And today I want to talk about how addressing accessibility for users with permanent disabilities can help everyone. My goal today is for you guys to consider accessibility as you are coding and designing, but my hope is that you guys will become an accessibility advocate. People with disabilities don't use my product, website, software. I hear this a lot whenever I talk about accessibility, and my response is always, how do you know? The short answer is, you don't know. Have any of you guys ever heard of Tabby Haley? Okay, Tabby is a software engineer with JP Chase Morgan. She also just happens to be a senior vice president at JP Chase Morgan. But she has a degenerative muscular disability. Every morning, she has to have her home health aide set her up at her desk, including placing her hand on her mouse. And most of the teams that she works with, because the products that Tabby interacts with are so accessible, and because of her assistive technology devices, most of the teams that Tabby works with doesn't even realize that she has a disability. And that's the goal, right? That is ultimately the end goal of, we want people to interact with our products regardless of their abilities in a manner that is easiest for them. Accessibility drives innovation. If I could shout this from the rooftops, I would. There's a saying when designing for inclusivity that when you solve for one, you can then expand to many. And when we design to be inclusive, it forces us to think outside of ourselves. Like Emily was talking about earlier, we all have biases. And if we can create things and think outside of what we know, take into consideration others' experiences, we can get creative and think outside the box. Have any of you ever heard of the curb cut effect? Excellent, a couple of you. So the curb cut effect basically is items that are designed for a specific group of people, such as individuals with disabilities, that ends up getting adopted in the mainstream because of its ease of use. Some things that we use today: audiobooks. This is one of my favorites. Procter & Gamble put notches on the bottom of their shampoo and conditioner bottles, and it helps users discern which is which. And I can tell y'all, I have washed my hair with conditioner before, so this would be useful for me. Pencil grips. OXO kitchen products. The gentleman that designed these, his wife loved to cook and bake. As she developed arthritis, she was not cooking and baking as much because she couldn't grip the utensils. So he widened the grip, added some silicone, and OXO was born, and lots of people use them today. The Snuggie. Electric toothbrushes. Bendy straws. Automatic doors. And text messaging. And I used at least 5 of those today alone, so we are using those all the time. Today, I just want to hit really broadly the different types of disabilities. Permanent disabilities are what most of us think about when we think about someone with a disability. And individuals with permanent disabilities make up the largest minority group in the world. In the United States alone, 25% of our population has a permanent disability. When we code and design products for people with permanent disabilities, we also make them easier for people with temporary disabilities to use. Where permanent disability is a long-term situation or disability, temporary is a short-term disability. I'm not the most graceful person on the planet. I could trip and fall walking down those stairs when I leave the stage and break my right arm. That's temporary disability. And I'm not going to be able to work tomorrow because I'm not going to be able to use my mouse with my right hand that I just broke unless my product has been created to work with keyboard navigation, which a lot of people with permanent disabilities use. So with my temporary disability, I'm able to use keyboard navigation to navigate my products if it has been coded properly. The last is situational disability. Situational disabilities refer more so to the environment around you. If I am working from a coffee shop, I left my earbuds at home, and I cannot hear the video that I need to watch for work, that's a situational disability because it's not captioned, I can't watch it. If it's captioned, I can watch it at the coffee shop, absorb the content, no problem. And I'm not going to drain this slide. This slide just basically gives you guys the types of disabilities and the senses, because a good way to kind of gut check if something is accessible is to make sure that it can be consumed by at least 2 senses. If you have something that has audio, for example, if you have closed captioning so that someone who can't hear can read the content, but then also a user who is visually impaired can use their screen reader to hear the, I'm sorry, I just messed that up, didn't I? If someone who is hearing impaired can read the content with captions, there we go, and someone who is blind can hear the content, those are your 2 senses, and you're covered. So small changes that can make a big impact. I never realized how much the little things can impact people until a couple of years ago. My stepdad was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, and in the course of learning more about accessibility, I ended up thinking, hey, you know what, those twisty doorknobs, he can't use those. What are we doing? So went to Lowe's, got some $10 lever doorknobs, went down to my parents, and switched out the doorknobs in their house. Those doorknobs gave my stepdad the freedom to move about his home as he pleased. He no longer had to worry about somebody helping him get from room to room. If he wanted privacy, he could shut the door and not have to worry about somebody coming to let him out. If a door was shut, he could open it. If he needed to get something from the pantry, he didn't have to wait on my mom. So I want to give you guys your lever doorknobs today. Page titles. If you guys title your pages, make it concise, but also give an adequate description of what that page's functionality is. Captioning. Not only can someone who has a hearing impairment use captioning, but a couple of weeks ago, I was in DC at an accessibility conference. The speaker had a very thick accent that I was having a hard time understanding. One side of my brain was trying to absorb the content. The other side of my brain was trying to discern what he was saying. Once I realized where I was like, hey, I could just read the captioning on the other screen. And from there on out, I was able to consume the content of the presentation without trying to decipher because I could read the captions. Headers and labels. Headers and labels are going to act as, it's going to provide structure for your website, and it also tells assistive technology how to interact with your website. It gives you a roadmap, or gives assistive technology a roadmap. Alt text. Alt text is going to describe visually impaired users describe the picture on the screen or images to a visually impaired user. It's also going to help with search engine optimization. And if somebody has a bad internet connection and that picture won't load, they can still read the alt text to see what information that picture should be conveying to them. Color contrast. Color contrast needs to meet World Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG. A couple years ago, my stepdad was in the hospital, and the hospital had a little QR code, give your nurse kudos. We loved the nurse. Sure, we'll give her kudos. Scan the QR code. The web page that popped up was a white background with bright yellow font. I could not read it from my phone, and that nurse did not get kudos that were well-deserved because I couldn't see what I was doing on the web page. And then lastly, keyboard navigation. Keyboard navigation is really important, especially for people who are using assistive technology. That's how they're going to navigate. But two, you also have people who maybe, their wireless mouse batteries are dead. They don't have batteries at home, or at my house, they get stolen to go into Xbox controllers. So if you have keyboard navigation though, the batteries can stay in the Xbox controllers, and I can still navigate the websites I need to navigate. All right, so when we design something that can be used by those with disabilities, we make it better for everyone. I have a video that I'm going to show you guys to close from Apple. They did it a couple years ago around excessive devices, and as you're watching, just keep in mind things that you would use if you had access to the technology that they're displaying here, whether or not you have a disability, because there are a couple things in here that I'm like, ooh, I'd really like to use that.
People think that having a disability is a barrier. But that's not the way I see it. You can catch up with friends.
Ready?
You can capture a moment with your family.
One face, small face, focus lock.
And you can start the day bright and early. You can take a trip to somewhere new.
3 miles to the summit.
You can concentrate on every word of a story.
A bird began to sing. Jack opened his eyes.
You can take the long way home. Or edit a film like this one. When technology is designed for everyone, it lets anyone do what they love, including me.
So thank you guys for your time today. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties, but I appreciate you guys being here, and take time to rate the presentation in the app and enjoy your conference.